After deliberating for about an hour on the first day, about 2 hours today, they have found him guilty on all 3 charges. Count 1, making a false statement in the purchase of a firearm. Guilty of count 2, making a false statement related to information required to be kept by a federal licensed firearms dealer.
As you've probably heard by now, Hunter Biden was found guilty on all 3 federal felony gun charges he was facing. Needless to say, his conviction is kind of a big deal. It's the first time an immediate family member of a sitting president has been convicted of a crime. But as significant as this guilty verdict is, it's really just the beginning of Hunter Biden's legal troubles. In this video, we're going to break down what happens next in his case and explore some of the other investigations and lawsuits he's currently facing. Stick around as we dive into the nitty-gritty details. The guilty verdict and potential sentencing.
The federal judge will decide in the coming months whether Hunter Biden should be sentenced to prison. The 3 felony counts he was convicted on carry up to 25 years behind bars.
Hunter Biden's guilty verdict on all 3 federal felony gun charges is a major development in his ongoing legal troubles. The charges stem from him lying on a background check form about his drug use when purchasing a revolver in 2018. As a first-time offender, he likely won't get the 25-year maximum sentence, but he still faces potential prison time and hefty fines of up to $750,000 at his sentencing hearing, scheduled for around 120 days from now. The guilty verdict, while serious in its own right, is just the start of Hunter's legal woes. He has another federal trial coming up in September on tax evasion charges. Prosecutors allege he failed to pay at least $1.4 million in taxes on around $7 million of income from 2016 to 2019, instead spending lavishly on drugs, escorts, hotels, and luxury items. The indictment paints a picture of Hunter living an excessive lifestyle funded by foreign business deals while shirking his tax obligations. Clearly, this gun conviction was just the first shoe to drop in Hunter Biden's multi-front legal battle. With the tax evasion charges still looming, he's far from out of the woods even after this guilty verdict. The unraveling of the plea deal.
A plea agreement that would have kept Hunter Biden out of prison for tax and gun charges was unexpectedly put on hold today, adding new questions to an already politically divisive deal.
What makes this guilty verdict even more consequential is that just last summer, it looked like Hunter Biden might avoid trials and jail time altogether. In June 2023, federal prosecutors struck a plea deal with Hunter's lawyers, where he would plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges and admit to illegally possessing the gun in exchange for likely probation and no further charges. But that deal spectacularly unraveled in court a month later. The federal judge overseeing the case refused to rubber stamp what she called an atypical agreement after prosecutors and defense lawyers couldn't agree on the terms. Prosecutors wanted to reserve the right to charge Hunter for other potential crimes, while his lawyers argued that would negate the deal's whole purpose. As the 2 sides went back and forth unsuccessfully, it was clear the carefully negotiated deal was falling apart. And when the judge refused to bless the agreement, it left prosecutors with no choice but to go back to the drawing board. 2 months later, they secured an indictment for the same gun charges Hunter thought he had dodged via the failed plea bargain. This chain of events makes the guilty gun verdict even more impactful. Hunter went from expecting a slap on the wrist to now facing potential prison time and more charges ahead, all due to the implosion of that initial plea deal. It's a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in high-stakes federal prosecutions. The special counsel's expanded mandate. Another key factor in understanding the gravity of Hunter's legal predicament is the appointment of U.S. Attorney David Weiss as a special counsel in this case back in August 2023. Weiss, a Trump appointee, had been investigating Hunter's financial dealings since 2019. By elevating him to special counsel status, Attorney General Merrick Garland gave Weiss extra resources and authority to pursue charges across multiple jurisdictions, effectively a wider mandate and a longer leash. Some Republicans criticized the move, arguing Weiss had been too lenient on Hunter by previously agreeing to the failed plea deal. They accused him of slow-walking the investigation to protect Joe Biden. But Weiss's expanded role wound up putting more legal pressure on Hunter, not less. Just a month after becoming special counsel, Weiss brought the indictment on the gun charges in the president's home state of Delaware. Then in December, he filed the tax evasion charges in California. This two-pronged approach, enabled by Weiss's new status, showed the investigation into Hunter was escalating, not winding down. So the special counsel appointment is another crucial context point for understanding where Hunter's legal troubles may be headed. With Weiss now empowered to bring cases across the country, Hunter could be fighting legal battles on multiple fronts, all stemming from the same overall investigation led by a prosecutor with a broad mandate. The potential political fallout.
Will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
While Hunter Biden is entitled to due process and the presumption of innocence like any defendant, there's no denying his legal issues carry added significance because of his father's position. No matter how much the White House tries to distance President Biden from his son's troubles, the fact remains this is the first time an immediate family member of a sitting president has been convicted of a federal crime. That unprecedented dynamic injects an inescapable political dimension to the case. Congressional Republicans, led by House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, have already launched their own investigations into Hunter's business dealings, particularly his foreign activities in China and Ukraine during Biden's vice presidency. While no evidence has emerged tying the president directly to any wrongdoing, that hasn't stopped Republicans from lobbing accusations of corruption and influence peddling at the Bidens. Some in the GOP have floated the idea that an impeachment inquiry into the president over his son's actions is necessary, though many believe that's a step too far based on the available facts. Still, as this year's presidential election draws nearer, it's a safe bet Republicans will seek to weaponize Hunter's legal troubles against his father's re-election campaign. They'll likely paint the president as complicit in his son's misdeeds despite his denials and use the drip of damaging details and allegations to sow doubts about the Biden family's ethics and integrity. On the flip side, the White House and the president's Democratic allies will have to walk a fine line between expressing support for Hunter as a family member while emphasizing his indictment and prosecution are being handled independently by the justice system. However the political attacks and counterattacks unfold, one thing is clear. Hunter Biden's legal saga has the potential to create major political headaches for his father, just as the 2024 campaign heats up. With his guilt now established in the gun case and more revelations possible in the tax proceedings and congressional inquiries, the president will face a constant balancing act of familial loyalty and political damage control. The uncertain road ahead. Pulling all these strands together, it's evident Hunter Biden's guilty verdict is indeed just the opening chapter of a much longer legal odyssey. With sentencing pending in the gun case, a looming tax trial, and the ever-present possibility of further indictments from the special counsel, Hunter will likely be on the legal defensive and in the public glare for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, the congressional investigations will continue, keeping the microscope on Hunter's tangled web of foreign dealings, even if no criminal charges ultimately stem from those inquiries. The drip of disclosures and allegations from those probes will keep the public riveted and the president's team on edge. Hovering above it all is the unavoidable shadow Hunter's troubles will cast over his father's re-election hopes. The legal and political timelines are now ominously aligned with the tax trial set to begin just as the 2024 campaign shifts into high gear and potential sentencing in the gun case looming close to Election Day. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think about Hunter Biden's guilty verdict and his ongoing legal troubles? Let us know in the comments section below.